Monday, lovelies. Good morning. I hope you're doing very well. I hope you're having an awesome day so far, whatever time you're starting this. So today we're officially starting our next math unit. And it's actually a really fun one. This one, a lot of kids tend to love this one because it's much more practical and it's things that you have been doing. You don't even realize you're doing it. So all you'll need for today's lesson is just your math notebook, a highlighter and a pencil. So let me just get the title down and we can talk about it before we get started. So today's, or this unit is called Statistics and Probability. And I'll discuss what it is in a moment. So let's just write this down. So new page, date, title, statistics, and probability. A new title. And you've probably heard both of those terms. Definitely you've heard probability. There's no way, because all of you have done our weather unit. So let me just quickly talk about what this unit is about. So statistics and probability, there's two sections. So the first 2 weeks we'll talk about statistics, and the second 2 weeks we'll talk about probability. Statistics, okay, let's talk about probability because you know what that is. Probability, so remember when we were doing that science weather watch unit? Whenever we would say, what is the probability that it will rain today? What is the probability that it might be 32 degrees today? Those are all, you're talking about probability, which is discussing the likelihood of something happening. What are the chances it's going to rain today, right? What are the chances that, for example, that the coronavirus is going to end today and we're going to be allowed to go out, right? That's the likelihood. Is it very likely? Is it not likely at all? So things like that. That's probability. That's the second half of the unit. So we're not starting with that, so that comes later. What we're starting with is statistics. And it's a very fancy mathematical word, and the short form you maybe heard is stats. But it's a fancy word just describing data, right? Collecting data, or if you say data, same thing, I say data. Statistic is just a method of collecting data and then understanding that data. And we're going to be talking about that, and that's what we're going to learn how to do, is how do I collect information and then make sense of it and then make use of it? Because that's what life is, right? Life isn't, everything's just not given to us, all the answers aren't given to us, and obviously some are, but sometimes you need to collect some information, right? Do the research, think of like research projects, and you have to look at the data, look at the information, and then understand it, and then maybe apply it, right? So when we talk about knowledge and application, that's what the point or the importance of statistics and data and collecting data and why we collect data. And so we're going to get all into that, but that's basically a quick rundown of what this unit is going to be about. So learning about collecting data and making use of that data, and then talking about probability, the likelihood of things happening, and understanding that. So we're going to start with statistics for the first little bit. Today's topic, we're just going to be discussing what this is, the information that we collect. What is it? And what does it mean? So now imagine if you wanted to find out, and because you're home, and obviously we would do this, and there's always so many fun things we've done in class, but unfortunately since we're not there, we're going to be doing some of the practice questions and fun things with you and your household. But for example, if you want to know how many students are wearing blue t-shirts today, how would you find that out? Right? Like imagine if you were in school right now and you wanted to find out how many students are wearing blue t-shirts. I could, being the teacher, I could just say, raise your hand if you were wearing a blue t-shirt today. And easily, and unfortunately there's no one here, but the students wearing blue would raise their hand. Then I would say, raise your hand if you're wearing a red shirt. Students raise your hands, right? What is that called? And you discussed it in grade 4, right? That's me taking a survey, right? That's me collecting information, collecting data, and making a survey. And that's what today's topic is how I collect data. And there's 2 different ways of collecting information. So me asking my students, or my invisible students right now, information and saying, how do you get to school, or what is your favorite color? And you guys say, what is your favorite color? Purple, pink, white, I don't know why white's not a color, red, blue, orange, and they have to pick, right? There's different ways of collecting data. So there's 2 different ways of collecting data, and that's what we're looking at today. So today's topic, this is basically, and we're gonna have 2 titles today. That's the unit title, that's the big one. That just circle it, maybe underline it. Today's lesson is going to be talking about first-hand, so this is the second title, first-hand data versus that's our title. So that is just basically the new introduction unit title. So today we're going to be talking about understanding the difference between secondhand data and firsthand data. And the only difference you'll realize in a moment is that it's just how you collect the information. We'll talk about it in a moment. Let's just get our I can statement down first. So our I can statement is I can understand the difference. I'm sorry if I'm always trying to make it very straight, but I'm on an angle. Difference between first and second-hand data. Because to understand the difference is very important. Oops. Okay, so please write that down and then highlight that. Okay, so first-hand data versus second-hand data. Our I can statement is I can understand the difference between first and second-hand data. Okay, please write that down and pause it if you need to. I'm going to erase it so we can look at each one of those very specifically. Okay, so pause the video right now if you want to and copy it down, and then let's look at each one of them separately. Now, let's say, so if we were still in school, right, I wanted to find out how you get to school, right? So for example, I drove to school every day, right? When we were still in school back in the day, I was driving to school every day. But now I'm curious, I want to find out how my 5B or 5A or 5C, how you guys get to school, right? Maybe that's something I wanted to find out, how you used to get to school. I'm just curious about that. So that I'm going to create a survey based on that, okay? So let's start that. And I'll write this down. So this is, no. First-hand data. The definition of first-hand data is it is data or information, right? More commonly known as information. So it's any data or information that, and I'll make this in a different color, and I want you to highlight that you collect yourself, okay? And this is the big point about it, right? That's a big definition, really. So first-hand data is any information that you collect yourself. That means it's not Miss Mavish asked the question, it's not my friends, it's not my parents, it's not online, which we'll look at in a moment. It's something you have done yourself. So right now, and you're going to be doing this later in the week, you're going to be doing a survey, and you're going to be collecting first-hand data in your own homes, and you're going to be asking questions to your family members. But if you do it yourself, that automatically is first-hand. And a good way to think about it is just think first. I come first. I don't need anyone else right now, right? First is me, so I'm first. That means I've collected the data. First-hand data, that means I've done it myself. That means I've asked the question, I've surveyed some students or people in my home, I've collected the data and I've written it down, right? That's first-hand data. So now let me create one. So let's say, and this is, for example, if I had asked, so let's say, and I'll make a chart, because there's different parts that go into collecting data. So let me make a chart like that. And now I'll write at the bottom, just so it's not distracted with the words. You always have to have a question, right? So I'll say this, question. My question would be, how do you get to school? And I'm doing an example that obviously you can't do on purpose. Then later on, when you have to do your own survey question, it's different from mine, okay? So this is my question. I wanted to find out, I was curious, right? I got curious one day. I wanted to find out how you got to school every day. That's my question, that's step one. Then, so I've got my question, then you need to make your chart, okay? And your chart always has to have 3 things. So I'm gonna cut this into 3. or maybe I'll write it down. It has to have the different options, right? So maybe my options would be method of travel, right? If I'm talking about how they're getting to school, my options wouldn't be orange, apple, bananas, they won't be fruits. My options are related to the question. So if I'm saying how do you get to school, my options would be, well, how are some possible ways people get to school? I'm obviously not going to have airplane and trains because I doubt any of our friends are coming on a train or an airplane, right? So what do you think some possible options could be? And I'll just do this part, I'll just do in chunks. So what do you think some possible options would be? How do you think most students get to school? So definitely car, so maybe they get dropped off, right? Maybe you live really close to the school, so maybe you just walk. Maybe you just walk with your parents. Maybe you do live really close to the school, but maybe you're like a little 10-minute walk, so you don't want to walk that much. Maybe you bike. Maybe you go on a bike. And sometimes in surveys, it's nice to just have other options because, unfortunately, even though we try our level best to get as much information or as many options, you can't have them all, right? Maybe there's someone who gets, maybe it's an interesting situation. They get picked up from an aunt and then dropped off, and it's a mix of things. So sometimes it's nice to just have that last option of other, right? So far I've got my question, I've got my options, right? So I've got how were the most common ways, probably a car, maybe someone walks, bike, and other, right? And maybe I'll say car or bus. Actually, let's do those separately because I know lots of our kids come on a bus. So let's take out other for now and say bus. Okay? So you're either coming to school in a car, you're walking, you're on a bike, or you're on a bus. So you've got your question, your options, then comes the tally. Now this part, and let me extend these lines, is your first-hand data. This is when you're collecting the information. So if I had a class, and I would love to do this so I can find out, I would ask my question. I would say, how do you get to school? Please raise your hand if you come in a car. And then maybe I'll have 5-6 students put their hands up, right? And maybe that's what it is. Let's say maybe, and I'm gonna guess because obviously I would conduct this survey in class, but I can't. But maybe let's say 6 students come to school in a car. And do you see how I did that? And when we're doing tallies, and this should be your view, you do 1, 2, 3, 4, and in your 5th one, you cross. And it doesn't matter which side you do it, but that means 5, right? You should know that. That's just a fun reminder, okay? Maybe 6 students, okay? And then the last one is easy, is you just write it as a digit. So 5, 6. Okay, next. And then I would ask the question, how many of you walk to school? Okay, maybe 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 hands went up. 4, I would write 4, and then I would put a total as 4. Bike, and I would ask the question, how many bike to school? And maybe there's, let's say 4 again. Maybe a lot of students live close to the school. Okay, and then I would say, how many of you come on a bus, right? And then maybe there's lots. Maybe there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe there's 10. Right? Maybe that's my totals. And then some students are absent. Yeah. Okay, let's add one more. So I have 25. So I've got 25 students in my class. Okay? So that means I need to say this is 5. There we go. So this is pretty much first-hand data. This is it. This is complete. You start with a question, whatever you want to find out. You find out the different options you want. And then you tally it, and then you just write down the totals. Now this is my first-hand data. Why? Why is this first-hand and not second-hand? It's first-hand because I collected the information. My friends didn't do it for me. Mr. Matt didn't do this. Miss Rachel didn't do this. I did this. This is for my class, and I can say that. And I could say this is 5B, right? This is 5B. That's how I know this is first-hand data. Now, the only difference between first-hand and second-hand, so I'm going to pause this, so please pause this if you need to. I'm going to erase this and move on to second-hand, because that's it. First-hand is basically you collecting information on your own. The second way is literally second-hand data. So, let's erase this. And you're probably already thinking what it means. Second-hand data is very similar. It's still information, but this time it is data or information, whichever word you like better. So just a reminder, first-hand was something I've done. Second-hand is information that someone else has collected. So it's not you. You're looking at someone else's survey, someone else's question, someone else's chart. So it's data information collected, or let's say that was, and maybe get a different color so this stands out, was collected by someone else. Was it? And that's the big thing, right? It's someone else doing it. It wasn't me. It wasn't you. It wasn't me. I didn't do this. Someone else did this. So for example, let's say, because I just collected data for 5B, I was curious, I wonder how that compares to Mr. Matt's class or Miss Rachel's class. And maybe I went and knocked on Miss Rachel's door and I said, Miss Rachel, I would love to find out what your class uses, what mode of transportation your class uses to get to class or get to school. And then Miss Rachel would collect the data and then she would give it to me. That is secondhand data. That means I didn't do it. Miss Rachel happened to do it this time, or it's just someone else, anyone else that's not you. So, for example, and I'll give it, and I'll just write it down. So maybe the question was the same, right? How do you get to school? How do you get to, I've run out of space, but same question, right? My question hasn't changed. And then let's say Miss Rachel she did her survey and she came to my room and just put this on my board. She put this whole chart, I don't know if you can see the green, can you? I won't use it. Let's get to black. That's the brown. And she said the same thing. Method of travel, tally, same chart, total, same options. So she did, what was it? Car, I remember this was bus, walk, bike. And maybe she changed the options, but she didn't. She wanted to keep it the same. And she collected data, and Miss Rachel told us that in her class, she had 3 students take a car. Maybe she had 11 students who walk. Maybe 4 students who are on the bike. And then maybe there's a lot of 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 8, right? Those are her, that's her data. Now, she just came into my room and gave it to me. And she said, this is our data. I asked my question and found out. That for us, for you and me, is secondhand data. That was just a tongue twister, right? Because we didn't collect it. So this would be our secondhand data because someone else collected for us. Now, for Miss Rachel, and this is the tricky part, for Miss Rachel, this is her what? If Miss Rachel produced and created the survey and the question, for her, is it secondhand data? No, right? For us, it's second when she gives it to us, right? When she said, this is our survey, I've done it, here you go. It's secondhand for us, but for Miss Rachel, it's firsthand because she did the survey. So basically, it's firsthand for whoever created the survey, collected the information, and then recorded it. And it's secondhand for anyone who is receiving the data, okay? That's the only difference between the two. And that's it. I'm going to keep it short for today. That's all I want to do. I want to discuss the two different types. Tomorrow, and I'm not putting any work today. I just want you to understand the two difference. Tomorrow we'll do a quick recap, and I'll talk a little bit about understanding and interpreting the data, and then we'll do some textbook questions. So today, I just want you to have written down these notes. Make sure they're written down. Make sure you've highlighted it. Make sure you've understood it. And remember, and I've talked about this in my reflection yesterday, if already, after today, so as soon as you close this video, you're lost or you're confused about something, you need to message right away. Don't wait until Thursday when we have a quiz on it, right? Don't wait until the day before the unit test. Ask right away. So today, all you need to understand is the difference between first-hand and second-hand data. That was our I can statement. And go back to your I can statement. Can I understand the difference? Okay, first-hand data means I've collected it, and then second-hand data means someone else has collected it. They've done a survey, and someone else has done it. Okay? So make sure you message us if you ever feel lost. Okay? Have a lovely day, and then I will see you when I see you.